Okay, so now we're going to actually go into a session. So I'm going to go to new meeting. Remember, you don't need to go through all this join here if you're already set up. This gets you right into the action. Okay, so before I join with my other self, let's go through a few things here. Top left corner, turn on original sound. So this is a big one. If you're having issues, if sound is cutting in and out, and if it's not an internet related thing, then turn on the original sound. It'll stop the suppression of the background noise and may give you some just a lot better results instantly. It's not an automatic thing depending on the environment, but that's a key one there. So always have this up there ready to switch back and forth if needed. Let's go over here. This is full screen. I don't like full screen unless I'm moving this over to a dedicated monitor. So that's obviously a preference thing. You can drag this back and forth like this to resize it as needed. Let's go to the bottom left. If this has a red line, that means you're muted. So look at that and that. All right, so arrow up next to it. Okay, this is a big one. A lot of people miss this using the desktop version of the app. Just the arrow up, and now we can select our microphone. And again, if the microphone is not working, if it's not showing, unplug it first, plug it back in. If that's an issue, then try a different port. If that's an issue still, then close out of the app and go back into it. And then finally, just reboot. And then here's your speaker, or in some cases, special headphones that are not going through the audio jack. And then you can do your tests beforehand. You can do all this stuff in the settings as well. I like to do this stuff before I get into the room. And then, so here's the audio settings here. That takes us back to that other screen, the white menu. Okay, and then the same thing applies for your video. And a lot of times that'll happen for your students. You'll see that, or they'll see that. So just click on it, and then also make sure you have the correct camera selected. You can do your virtual background here as well, or you can go to your settings like we did before. Okay, what if you're in the room and then they're not there yet? You can invite them. Maybe they lost the meeting ID number, so bam, you can send it by email. Or if you have them as a contact, that would be the reason why you want to do contacts, is to do this so you don't have to text them. And you can copy the meeting ID number right here. So there's so many ways, so many places to get the information you need to in Zoom. That's why I love it. Easy to find stuff, multiple places to find stuff. Manage participants. This is the place to go for group classes. You're going to see a huge list here, or however many people. Then you can mute, you can rename them if they didn't name themselves. So let me go ahead and we'll come back to that just a second. So when I log in. Then, of course, you can chat beforehand. People can chat with each other. If you set that up, people can share files. So a fully integrated chat feature here. This is great for troubleshooting, and it's also great for chat during a session, maybe a master class, or maybe a seminar of some kind. Okay, so many different ways to think about that. Support. Only do this if you know what you're doing with tech support. That'll go to the kind of screen share and remote control options here. And of course, in the meeting, so let's talk about recording for a second. I'm going to click on record. Okay, so when we stop this recording, there's an icon on my other screen. The recorded file will be converted when the meeting ends. So you don't have to worry about anything happening rendering-wise. What happens if we record again? Maybe we want to record another snippet. And then maybe you need to stop for a moment. Maybe you're coughing, or maybe you need to go to get some music. And then we're going to resume. So it's like you can think of it as clips. You have these clips. If you want to do it that way, I like just doing the whole thing. But remember, there's also the audio option. So like the student can listen to the entire lesson or just parts of it. So this is a really great feature. If you can learn how to use this feature and be multitasking, you can feed the information into your student in short bunches or you can just have them listen to the whole thing throughout the week at some point. So I love the recording features. And the great thing is it's going to wait till we end the meeting. We'll end the meeting, come right back in. And then this pops up. The longer it is, the longer it's going to convert. I'll talk about that in a second. Actually, I'll talk about it now. So if you have a lot of different recordings or a long recording, I think like a 30-minute recording is probably going to take about 2 to 3 minutes. And the kind of hour-long recording, probably close to 5 minutes. So just be careful if you're doing back-to-back lessons. And if you stop the lesson, that's going to be rendering in the background. So that's something to think about if you don't have a high-powered computer, or if it's kind of bogged down a little bit. Okay, you'll notice that rendered into 2 different recordings here. I can rename it, and then I can put it in my Dropbox, share it with my student very easily. Okay, let's go back into the app, and then I'm going to join with my other self. Okay, so now I'm going to get my other self here, and I'm going to join. Great way to practice, by the way. Just make sure you don't put the audio on your secondary device or you'll get the loop back. Okay, so let's just go through some of these features here. We already went through all the main features, and we're going to work on the sharing features. Okay, so you can share your desktop. Look, maybe you have a file opened up on your desktop. This is a hard one because if you don't have enough space, there's no point in doing a desktop share. But if you got a second desktop like me, then that's a pretty easy thing to do. If you have $80 to $100 to invest, then you have more screen space. But you don't need to do that. So the whiteboard app, I find this kind of hard to use, to be honest with you. That's why I use my iPad. We'll get to that in just a moment. But mess around with that. It may be something. It may be perfect for you. And I think there's a way to import files into there. So like staff paper, you can draw on that. Okay, AirPlay or cable connection. All right, so this is great. I like doing cable. AirPlay is fine, but I prefer wired in on everything I can. So hopefully most of you know about Fourscore, organizational app, super organizational app for storing music. This is a must for music teachers. I'll have a separate tutorial for this, but just think of it as you have your set list, which is your students, and you can put your PDFs in there, and then you have annotation. You can your annotation and your share features are the big things here. But the idea is that you can share your screen, and then you can pinch in and out. You can really zoom in for clarity on things, making it easier for you to write. You can already see how much better that is versus just a screen that you can't touch. Or maybe it is a Microsoft Surface, and if it is, then that makes it easier in terms of the screen sharing and the whiteboard especially. Look, you can do a number of apps here. You can train your students and show them how to use the iReal Pro app for improvisation, go through and edit. I do a lot of my screen sharing to show students how to do stuff, how to work with apps, how to practice. GarageBand, the list goes on and on and on and on. But the actual application or performance of that would need to be on their side, okay, because of latency. Okay, and we make our round to gallery review at the very end. Should have done this at the beginning. But you can choose different views based off your preference there. I like this view, and then it flips back and forth when I see the recording. So just mess around with that. That's all preference, and we're going to end the meeting. Let me know if you have any questions there may be a few things that I skipped over that I thought weren't essential. And if you think of anything, just let me know, put it in the comments, and wish you the best of luck.